gosh, it's just like when you get to the grocery store and you remember where everything is, and then you realize that they've rearranged everything. And the same thing happened on the Zoom. So, but I found it and the recording button is on. So here we go. I'm glad to see everybody here this morning for the Mindful Mat Pilates practice. And for this morning, I'd like you to have your roller and your blocks and with a blanket or pillow, anything like that that you might usually need or use or want. And then also, just in case it just works out, have your non-stretchy strap available. And what I'd like to do today to begin is to start on the roller. And before we get on the roller, I just want to do a brief explanation of what we're going to attempt to do. So when we lay the full length of our body and head on top of the roller, basically what we're going to play with is a way of rocking, right, of moving kind of from side to side that feels like it is kind of giving you a little bit of a massage everywhere you feel the back of your spinal area making contact with the roller. And that even includes the back of your skull, right? Because you are going to have contact there. There are going to be little parts of your body that don't make contact with the roller. There might be all parts of the back of your body. Just depends upon the shape of your spine at this point in your life, right? The curvier your spine is, the less likely it is that every part of your spine is going to touch the roller. And the flatter your spine is, you might make full contact, right? But so we're going to focus on all the parts of the spine that touch the roller. So we're going to get that roller down the middle of our mat, and we're going to lay ourselves on the roller. And once you are basically on the roller, so you're making sure that from your tailbone region all the way through the back of your skull, you're supported by the roller. Okay, so no part of you is off of the roller. And then if you have a kind of a soft, squishy roller, the next thing that you want to do is to make sure that it's not bent or squished in a way where it feels like your roller has scoliosis, right? So you want your roller to feel straight up and down, and then your spine, the back of your spinal area, can rest directly on top of the roller, okay? And then we'll just take a further step or two to align the legs and the arms in a particular way. So when your feet are on the floor, your thigh bones all the way down through your shin bones to your feet are roughly parallel. And you just want to make sure that your knees are neither knocking toward one another or flaring out away from each other. So your legs feel relatively parallel to one another. And then when you have your arms on the mat, if you're able to let your elbows rest onto the mat, right, your hands and elbows and forearms resting onto the mat, and you don't want to have your arms wide so that you're off the mat, but you also don't want to feel really tight against the roller. So your arm positions should feel comfortable, and your arms should also feel as though they are arranged symmetrically relative to one another. Okay? And then we can make a couple of adjustments, just being aware of the way we're making contact through the area of our spine against the roller. And if you notice that you're missing contact in your low back and in the back of your neck, just arrange yourself, kind of lengthen yourself out a little bit more so that you're reducing those areas where you don't make contact. But when I'm all done arranging my body, I still have areas where I don't make contact, right? And so that's just because my spine is still somewhat curvy, right? I haven't completely lost all of that, as I'm only in my mid 50s right now, so Give me another 20, 30 years and that might change. So, whatever part of you is making contact, that spinal area is making contact, the next thing I'd like you to do is take a few moments to allow the weight of your whole trunk and skull to sink against the roller. So the first action is actually almost in the non-action category. You're relaxing tension that may prevent the spinal area, the spinal region, from making contact with the roller. So that may require relaxation through the deep muscles of the pelvis and abdomen and the chest and shoulders and even the front of the neck in order for you to feel heavier against the roller. And then see if you can bring your awareness to the region of your body associated with your thoracic spine. So the thoracic section is the section that runs through the ribs, right? That's the thoracic section of the spinal column, right? So let's bring our attention to that thoracic region. And let's start to do a little bit of rocking side to side in order to massage that portion of the spine called the thoracic spine. So the thoracic spine runs from the bottom of the neck down to the top of the abdominal, the back of the abdominal region. So the thoracic section is below the cervical section and above the lumbar section. So I'm just rocking my body from side to side, trying to be as loose as I possibly can so that I can massage the vertebra, the 12 vertebra, the backs of the vertebra of my thoracic spine. And I chose this part of the body specifically because this tends to be a really tight region for our adult bodies. And this region, for whatever reason, seems to get tighter and tighter as we get older and older. And so we're just trying to bring back a little bit of mobility or even just a little bit of suppleness into this thoracic region. And as you're rocking your body from side to side with this focus on loosening up that thoracic region, let your neck muscles be as relaxed as you can. Allow the muscles of your pelvic region to be relaxed. And so then what starts to happen, if you can relax, is you feel your head rolls a little bit from side to side and your pelvis rocks from side to side. And so by loosening up that thoracic region, relaxing the muscles in the neck region, relaxing the muscles in the belly and the pelvis, we start to massage the whole posterior spinal region, the back of the spinal region. And just play with that. Just play with that a little bit, right? So you're trying to find a looseness in your body that starts with your ability to manipulate the tissues that touch the back of your spine, but it has the effect of actually loosening you in a much more comprehensive way. You might even notice that something's happening to the front of your chest and shoulder region, the front of your belly, and even your pelvis and the sort of connection points for your legs to your pelvis. So let's just go with this for a few more moments. And then we're going to slow it down and slow it down and slow it down until we're just resting right on the center of the back of our spine, and take 3 deep breaths. And as you're taking those 3 deep breaths, 2 more, you might notice some heat. That's what I feel, is a lot of heat in that region. And we associate heat with blood flow. So if you're feeling heat, we could make the assumption that we have improved the blood flow to this region of our body, which is a very good thing. And now let's go ahead and turn ourselves, come off of the roller, and just move the roller off your mat for a moment and come up onto all fours. Right? So your hands and knees, which could also translate to fists and knees if hands and knees doesn't make sense for you, just coming up onto your hands and knees. And then let's go ahead and move through our own personal variation of flexing and extending the spine, aka the cat-cow, which requires us to use the abdominal and chest muscles to form flexion, or the cat, and the spinal and back shoulder muscles to do the cow, or extension. So just moving into cat-cow, using muscles on the front of the body to form the cat, muscles on the back of the body to make the cow. Moving in a way that feels good for your body, that feels appropriate for your body. And wherever you are in that, take 2 more. It's a nice flowing flexion and extension of the spine. And we'll do 1 more. And then come back to neutral, coming off of our hands and knees. We're going to come onto our back, and if you'd like to place a thin pillow behind your head, you're welcome to do so. Okay, so coming onto your back, I'd like you to take a hold of your roller. Now, the next thing that we're going to do also brings our awareness to the thoracic region, the chest region of our trunk, okay? Which is the region of the trunk that our arms are connected to, okay? And we're going to be holding the roller and then making some motion. And so you need to make sure that you've got full wingspan without crashing into furniture. So you might have to make a slight readjustment to your position in order to avoid bumping into the furniture, or if you're sharing the space with a friend, making sure that you don't bump into each other, okay? So, in my estimation, these movements are appropriate for all of us, although if you have a sticky or difficult shoulder, you may find that your range of motion is slightly limited, but still work with this, okay? We're going to try this with our legs in this position, in the bent position, but we do want to have our feet further away from us, as far away from your butt as they can go and still stay flat, so we don't bump into our legs when we're doing it. And if that becomes a problem, we can always just straighten out our legs. So what we're going to do laying on our backs is we're going to hold the roller in the palms of our hands, right? Not your fingers, but your palms, if you can do that. So what that does is it actually opens up the back of the wrist. So holding the roller in the palms of your hands, if you can do that, right? Not your fingers, but your palms. I'd like you to hold the roller above the front of your chest, right? Not over your throat or your face, but over your chest, okay? And the first movement that we're going to do is rotating the roller, what I'm going to call in line with the center line of the body, okay? So holding onto the roller with adequate engagement through your core muscles. What I want you to do is slowly rotate the roller to bring it in line with your spine, and then rotate it so it is perpendicular to your spine. That's how we started. Rotate it the other way so it's in line with your spine and then perpendicular to your spine, right? So notice that in order to get the roller in line with your spine, you have to do a lot of shifting and moving, not just through your shoulder joints, but through your thoracic region, through the region of your chest. Do the best you can to avoid twisting your head and neck. Try to keep your head and neck in line with the rest of your spine as you rotate the roller, right? And for some of you, this might not be very difficult. And for some of you, this might be really challenging, right? I feel stretching at different times from the backs of my hands all the way through to my torso. Let's do it one more time in each direction, taking it slow, rotating in line with the spine and then perpendicular to the spine, in line with the spine, perpendicular to the spine, and then just let the roller rest on you. Let your arms relax down on the floor if you need to shake out your arms or shake out your hands. If you're really, really, really tight through this upper chest, this brachial complex, as it's called, sometimes that can even cause a little bit of cold or tingling or numbness, right? Because there's so much tension in that area of the body. Okay. Now, we're going to continue. Okay. So holding the roller between the palms of your hands with adequate engagement in your core and a steady neck and head. What we're going to do now is make a circular movement. So we're going to shift the roller over to the right, circle it down over the belly, shift to the left, and circle it over the head. So it goes to the right, down over the belly, to the left, and over the face or over the top of the head. And how far you go over your head is dependent on your range of motion. Right? So for some of us, we can go all the way over the head, and for some of us, we have to go over the face. We're not trying to twist the roller and align it with our spine. We're holding it between our hands, and we're shifting our arms from right to left, from lower and upper to make a circle with the roller. And again, I feel sensations from the backs of my hands all the way through to my trunk. Let's take that one more time around with adequate engagement in the abdominal region. And when the roller is over your belly, pause and let the roller rest on your belly. And you can just shake out your arms, shake out your hands. And then we're going to hold the roller in the palms of our hands again. Hold the roller above our chest. And this time we're going to start by going to the left, down around the legs, over to the right, and past the face or the top of the head. So we're making a circle. And the size of the circle is really dependent on your range of motion. We always need to have some level of activation in the core region because we need to hold the lower portion of the rib cage stable to the abdominal area. If we do not stabilize the rib cage, then this could actually be more difficult for the muscles that we're activating, the muscles of the chest and arms. Let's take 2 more circles around, holding that roller between the palms of our hands. And as you complete the last circle, just put the roller down onto the floor and turn yourself off of your back. And once again, come up onto your hands and knees. Or fists and knees, whatever is appropriate for you. So coming up onto all fours. How about if I just call it that? Coming up onto all fours. Now we are opening up the inside of the wrist joint. in this position. And we're going to go back to flexion and extension, to the cat and the cow. The same movement that we did moments ago, but notice if there's any change, particularly in the thoracic region of your spine as you move through flexion and extension. It's possible that the movements that we did holding the roller in the palms of our hands may have actually loosened up this thoracic area so that your cat-cow doesn't get stuck in your neck and in your low back. You're starting to feel change through that thoracic region. Let's take one more round of mindful cat and cow. And then come back to neutral, coming off of our hands. We're going to take our roller and come back to laying on our backs. No pillow this time. No pillow. And this time, what I'd like you to do once you're laying on your back is to bring the roller behind the back of your pelvis, behind the back of your pelvic region, where the portion of your spinal column called the sacrum, right? We have cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacrum, coccyx. Coccyx is the tailbone. The sacrum is the portion of your spine that's above your tailbone and below the lumbar spine. And that portion of our spine is associated with the pelvis, okay? So we want to feel, we can tell we're on the sacrum because it's hard. It's a hard surface. It's a very firm surface because it's a big chunk of bone that's naturally fused together, okay? So what we're going to do here is prevent the roller from squirting out from under you by touching it with your hands in some way, either over the top or around the sides, right? The back of the neck is elongated, back of the skull on the mat, shoulder blades on the mat. We're going to bring the legs up into what I like to call lazy tabletop. So in lazy tabletop, we just allow the shins to kind of dangle lightly from the knees. I would say it's not a loose, sloppy dangle. We're just letting the knees flex all the way. Okay, so however much your knees flex, you're just allowing that. And we're also allowing the hip joints to flex a little bit so the thigh bones might feel a little closer to the belly. But what we're not going to do is be lax through our core. We're going to have some activation through the core. Now, what we're going to do here is begin to rock, right? Rock the pelvis side to side so that the spine begins to rotate and we feel ourselves rolling into the back of the right buttock and then back to the center and then rolling into the back of the left buttock and back to center. And the reason we need to hang on to the roller is when we do this, sometimes we end up with the roller moving too far away from our head. So we want to make sure that we keep the back of the pelvis, the sacrum, on top of the roller always as we work from side to side. So what I'm doing purposefully as I rock from side to side is I'm just creeping my body back on top of the roller or down on top of the roller so that I don't end up losing my specific contact. And what you might notice is that there's some tenderness in this region of the body. So we're just trying to bring some blood flow into this area that has some very dense kinds of tissue across it. Now, let's pause with our pelvis rocked a little bit to the right, okay? And then begin to develop a circular motion, right? Maintaining this orientation of a slight tilt or twist to the right. And so what we're doing here is we are massaging the area of our right SI joint, sacroiliac joint, the area where the sacrum, the spine, and the iliacus, the pelvis, are joined. When we're just massaging the muscular tissue in that region. Now stay in that right orientation, but reverse the direction of the circling. So you're using your core to produce this motion to alleviate tension, unnecessary tension from this area. And then let's rock back to the center. Put your feet down on the floor. Make sure the roller is directly behind the sacrum. Bring your legs back up into relaxed tabletop. And then rock or twist to the left. And now begin that circular motion. Palpating the muscular tissue that surrounds the left sacroiliac joint area. And then maintaining that left focus, reverse the direction of the circling. Using your core to produce this circling motion. And then come back to the center and place both feet down onto the mat, lift the pelvis, and slide the roller out from underneath your pelvis. Let's rotate off of our backs and onto all fours, setting the roller off to the side. One more time, coming up onto all fours. Right now we have addressed all of the regions of the trunk and the areas associated with the limb connections. And so we're going to go through our last sequence of flexion and extension, right? Flexing the spine to form the cat shape, extending the spine to form the cow shape. Again, noticing as we target each area of the body. First, the tissue associated with the back of the spinal column. Next, the thoracic region. Third, the pelvic and sacral region. And just notice how those manipulations impact your movement quality. Let's take two more. And one more time, all the way through. Coming back to neutral. And then grabbing both of our yoga blocks and coming onto your side. Right? Coming onto your side with your legs in a zigzag, one stacked on top of the other, using one yoga block to support your head and reserving the other yoga block for your top hand in case you feel like you need some stability in this region. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is a side bend. We're going to lay our top arm alongside the body with our shoulder balanced right in the center, not collapsing towards the front, not collapsing towards the back, but resting right in the center. Make sure that your neck is not twisted, so you're not looking up towards the ceiling or down towards the floor, but straight out across the floor about the height you are above the ground. Okay, you're going to keep your legs and feet down on the floor, and on the exhale, you're going to pick up your head and bend your spine to the right, and I want you to hold that. And what we really want to feel is that bending in the thoracic region, not the bottom of the ribs to the pelvis, but that whole thoracic spine bending and then slowly releasing. Using our muscles to bend our spine to the right, or sorry, bend your spine away from the floor. I'm bending to the right, and then releasing. You might be laying facing your computer, so in that case, you might be bending to the left. So forgive me for saying right, left. We're bending away from the ground, right? So I am bending my cervical spine as well. I can feel my neck muscles working, but I'm really interested in that thoracic region. And let's do two more, using your muscles to bend your spine. And one more time, bending your spine away from the floor and then relaxing that effort. Great. Now, let's use the block, okay, that's in front of our chest, placing your hand here, balancing your shoulder right in the center, not forward, not backwards. Your legs are in a zigzag, okay? So now instead of bending, we're going to twist and we're going to use the legs as part of this. The legs will stay connected to each other. We've done this before. So we'll start by picking up those feet, twisting the body, which includes the legs. But notice that the thoracic region remains steady on the ground. And then we release that. Let's do three more. The feet come up. We're using the legs as part of the lower body to develop twisting. And the thoracic region can sort of sense what's happening in the lower body, but we're not twisting in the upper body. And let's do that one more time with legs connected, that twisting. And then release. Now keep your feet down, pick up both of the legs together. We're twisting, but we're not twisting in the chest, right? Sometimes when we do this twist, we get some yucky feedback in some of the muscles close to the hip joints. I can feel this in my left hip to leg interface. And I'm just letting those muscles just deal with it. Right? Make sure that you're not twisting your chest. Let's do one more. And then lower those legs back down. Now, you can keep your top hand on the block. If you have the ability to reach your arm overhead and interlace your fingers, still use the block for your head, but reach your arms upward. Stretch your top leg out nice and long. So you feel really elongated through your front and through your back. And begin to circle your leg, reaching your toes as far away from your fingers as you can. Right? So now we're just focusing on loosening up that single leg, working the musculature that surrounds the region of that side of the pelvis. Let's pause in the center, really elongate it again, and reverse the circling. And then let's pause, relax the arms into a more sustainable position and bring that top hand back down to the block. Now, what I'd like you to do is to straighten out your bottom leg and arrange your top leg so your foot is on the floor in front of your bottom leg. Now, I know that this is difficult for some people who have really tight hips. And so if you feel like you have to hang on to your foot or your shin, that's okay. If you don't need to make contact with your shin, what I want you to do is to use the muscles of this leg to prevent the leg from collapsing towards the ground. So you want to keep the leg sturdy if you're able to do so. Now we're going to raise and lower the bottom leg without tipping the pelvis sideways, right? So we're raising and lowering the bottom leg without tipping the pelvis sideways. It's not a big movement. And this movement is actually massaging the muscle tissue on the outside of that bottom hip area. Now we're going to hold that bottom leg up off of the floor, and without letting the knee bend, we're going to try and make a circle. Again, we are palpating that tissue that's touching the floor to try to alleviate some tension on the outside of that hip. And then let's reverse the direction of the circling. One more time around. And then let's relax that effort come off of that side and shift and go over to our other side. So as we lay on our second side, we zigzag our legs. We use one yoga block for the head, and we reserve the second yoga block for the hand when we feel like we need that yoga block. Okay, but we don't need it right in the beginning, because what we're going to do is bend the thoracic spine so that top arm rests alongside the body. Make sure that your neck is not twisted, so you're looking straight out across the floor. Okay, we'll take a nice deep breath in, and as we exhale, we're going to lift our head and bend our spine. We're going to hold that, right? Try to imagine that thoracic region of your spine, right, part of your rib cage, is really arcing away from the ground, and then slowly relax that. Now just moving into that motion and out of that motion. You're not lifting like a straight board, quite the opposite. We're trying to restore some of that supple quality of the thoracic spine, which unfortunately we lose as we get older. But it doesn't mean we shouldn't keep trying to maintain the health of that region. Let's do a couple more. We're working on bending sideways. Let's do one more. And then rest the head on the block. Now, bring that block, that second block, close to your chest. Place your hand on that second block, okay? And we're going to do a little bit of rotation, keeping the thoracic region, the chest region, steady and stable. So again, legs are together. We start by lifting the feet, and we twist the legs with the lower body, and then we untwist. Again, the feet come up, and we twist the legs with the lower trunk and the upper trunk, chest and shoulder area, neck and head area are steady. That area can feel, that upper body area can feel the influence of this motion, but it's relatively steady. Now let's reverse that. Let's go backwards. Feet stay down, knees come up. This one's a little bit harder to stabilize, because as the lower body turns, it has some momentum and some mass. And so it really would be easy to just roll all the way over. So we're trying to control that, nice and steady. Let's do one more. Mindful of what's happening with that top shoulder. Now let's pause, straighten out the top leg. If it's available to you, reach both arms overhead, interlace your fingers. Take a moment to really lengthen yourself. Not just the front of your body, which would cause you to arch, but your whole trunk. Really elongate and then begin the circles. So you're lengthening your spine to lengthen your leg, to get your toes as far away from your fingers as you can. And then let's pause, and maintaining that feeling of neutralized length, right? Equal length back to front, side to side, circling the leg. And then let's pause and let the arms come back to a more relaxed, comfortable situation. We're going to straighten out that bottom leg. Place the top foot on the mat in front of the bottom leg. Now, again, if this is a difficult thing for you to do because of limitation in the hips, if you need to hang on to your leg, you can. If you don't need to hang on to your leg, I want you to work your leg muscles and hip muscles to keep your legs steady in an upright situation versus allowing the leg to collapse towards the floor. Now, the first thing that we're going to do is to raise and lower the bottom leg. And we have muscles that run from the groin to the inside of the knee, called your adductors, that we can use to raise and lower the leg. So it's not coming from your groin, right? It goes from the groin to the knee.
right? And it really is helpful if you actually imagine it from your groin to your ankle. That may even help you to feel stronger as you do this motion. Now hold the leg up and without allowing the knee to bend, begin to circle, right? And do it as if you were trying to massage the area of your hip that's making contact with the floor. Now I'm lean. I can feel my bones rattling around against the mat, and I can feel the glunk glunk of my feet, the head of my thigh bone rotating, but I know that it's okay. I know that I'm not hurting myself. And then let's reverse the direction of the circle. Sometimes when we massage this area, it stings because it's so tight. Let's do one more circle and then relax both legs. Let's go ahead and turn onto our belly. So we're going to put our blocks off to the side, okay? And we're going to come onto our belly and we're going to position ourselves with our legs straight and in parallel, the tip of our nose facing towards the floor, and our arms down onto the ground, slightly wider than the edges of your mat, with your palms touching the floor. Okay. And if that's not possible, then you can rotate your arms the other way so that your palms are facing up. But if you can do palms to the floor, let's do that. Okay. So the legs are toned, the buttocks are toned, right? And what we're going to do is first develop an effort where you're trying to elongate, right, along your spine, right out through the very top of your head, what we call the crown of the head. And your glutes almost feel like they're contracting and drawing your tailbone away from the crown of your head. So you're starting off by generating a sense of traction, making your spine longer. Now, with the spine elongated, begin to raise the front of the chest up off of the floor and then lower back down. So we establish that initial feeling of length, and then we add the effort of the lift, right? If we look at this movement strictly from body mechanics, the low back muscles are working the hardest. And that is simply a function of leverage, right? By the time the low back muscles are engaged, the weight of the upper trunk is what they are responsible for. So it makes sense that you feel the most effort in the low back. But you should also feel effort in the region of your spinal column. And the lengthening first, I feel, can help us to get a better sense for the whole spine. Let's do a couple more. Elongating tip to tail, and then adding the lifting effort. And let's do that one more time. And then lowering down. Let's bring those hands underneath the forehead, relaxing the back muscles. And then just begin to swish your pelvis, your hips, from side to side. A nice gentle wave-like movement from side to side to encourage those low back muscles to release. Now we're going to do a second variation. So for this variation, we're going to bend the arms like a zigzag, placing our hands on the mat in the vicinity of our shoulder joints, okay? And your elbows are close to the floor, but not on the floor. Your elbows are low, but not on the ground, okay? All right. And again, legs are in parallel, right? The tip of your nose is towards the floor. And we're going to begin by activating the glutes in an effort to draw the tailbone away from the skull. And then elongate the spine like we're reaching out through the top of the skull. Again, we're starting with a sense of traction. Now, mindful to avoid hunching the shoulders, begin to raise the chest up, pressing into the hands a little bit, maintaining that sense of length in the spine. Don't come up too high. Notice I haven't come up very high, and then lowering back down. I'm really focused on the muscles of my spinal region. So I establish that traction, and then with that traction maintained, I start to lift a little, and then I lower back down. Now I can feel the muscles of my upper back working. Traction, and then pressing a little bit to rise up. This is called a baby cobra push-up, and then back down. I'm taking it really conservative because what I don't want is I don't want to lose the opportunity to work the muscles and go right into flexibility. Let's do a couple more. Mindful of how those shoulders are being treated. Really lengthening that tailbone away from the skull as you come up to alleviate compression in the low back. We'll lower all the way back down, overlap the hands, soften your back, right? Like a beautiful hula dancer on Maui. Just sway those hips gently from side to side. Let the back relax. Let the buttocks relax. Now let's stay in this orientation and let's focus on movement of the legs, okay? And so we want to use your glutes and lower abdominals to create a positive pressure point at the pubic bone, right? So the pubic bone stays really nicely grounded in the mat, okay? Shoulders are relaxed. And maintaining straight legs, we're going to raise the right foot off of the ground. Feel the pivot in the hip socket. Lower the leg. Raise the left leg off the ground. Feel the pivot in the hip socket. Right? Now, raising the leg alternately can sometimes be confusing because if we tried to pick up the uppermost portion of the leg, we would have to rock the pelvis to the side. So when the leg is lifting, it's really more about pivoting. It's like you're working the handle on a pump, right? There's a pivot point, and your leg is the lever, and your foot is the furthest point from that pivot point. Maintain that connection between the pubic bone and the mat. Let's do one more time for each leg. And then relax all your muscles in a gentle hula sway through the pelvic region. And now let's come up onto our forearms. So we're going to come up onto our forearms with our arms parallel, our palms on the floor. Again, we're going to focus on using the glutes and the lower abdominal muscles to really create a genuine feeling of pressure at the pubic bone. Okay. Now, easy on your neck. What we're really interested is in a change in the thoracic spine, the portion of the spine, 12 lovely vertebrae that starts at the base of the neck and runs down to the upper abdominal area. And that's the part of the spine that we really want to feel bending, right? Not so much in the low back in order to maintain this sphinx-like position. Now from here, we're going to alternately bend each knee twice and we'll alternately point and flex at the ankle joint. So we'll start with the right leg and we'll point and flex, and then we'll switch to the left leg, point and flex. Or you could flex and point, whatever makes more sense to your body, but one leg at a time while you maintain this steady position in the trunk. You alternately work your legs, flexing each knee twice and flexing each ankle twice. Let's do 2 more rounds. And 1 more round. And then we're just going to lower down and roll over onto our back. Now, as you roll onto your back, please don't pull your knees to your chest. Please don't pull your knees to your chest. Just lay on your back, on your mat, with your legs stretched out on the floor, your arms laying on the floor. Just take a moment to lay on your back and give your back muscles a little bit of time to settle, okay? Because whether we're doing an exercise to work the back muscles or the oblique muscles or the abdominal muscles, what we don't want to do is immediately stretch the muscle after we've contracted it, because that's just hard on the muscle. We want to give the muscle just a few moments to soften, okay? And then instead of going into a passive stretch, we're actually going to do a dynamic movement with the opposite side of the body, the muscles on the front. So let's go ahead and take our left hand and place our left hand behind our head. Let's let our right arm rest out onto the floor. Keep your legs in a wide position, right? So your legs are in a wide position, but they're still on the mat, and point your toes. We're only focused on the right leg right now. So left hand behind your head. We're focused on the right leg, okay? We're going to take a deep breath in, and as we exhale, we're going to bring the right knee towards the left side of the chest and the left side of the chest towards the right knee. And we're just going to hold that. We're going to relax, trying to pull with the arm, and we're going to use the muscles of our trunk and our hips and our thigh to hold this position. Give it 1 more moment, and then release that effort. Let your left arm rest on the floor. Bring your right hand behind your head. Okay, we're going to take a deep breath in, and on the exhale, we're going to bring the left knee towards the right chest. Right? We're going to hold that. We're not pulling with the right arm. We're supporting the head so that the neck doesn't have to overwork. We're using the strength of our trunk to get to this position, holding the effort. Really use the muscles of the hip to bring that knee across. 1 more breath. And then slowly release that effort. Now, bend both knees. Feet flat on the mat, arms away from your body, and allow your legs to rock gently from side to side. So that sustained effort of abdominal contraction helps to relax and release the muscles of our back. Now let's go ahead and grab a yoga block and set ourselves up for a shoulder bridge. So block between your knees, arms down alongside your body, arranging your shoulder blades along the back side of your rib cage, right? Your feet are not too close to your buttocks, nor are they too far. And let's just pause here for a moment, getting ready for the bridge, taking a deep breath in and out. Take 1 more deep breath in, and on the next exhale, starting from the tailbone, Lift the tailbone, lift the sacrum, begin to raise the lumbar spine off the mat, and slowly make your way through your thoracic spine until you're resting against the portion of your back ribs where your shoulder blades are sitting. Take a deep breath in at the top. Now, let's go down slowly through that thoracic spine. Feel each of those thoracic vertebrae coming back down to the mat, and then just gently lay the rest of the spine and the pelvis back down onto the floor. Take a deep breath in, starting at the coccyx, the tailbone, then lifting the sacrum and pelvis, then the lumbar spine. Now really, again, notice that thoracic spine coming off. Does it come off like a big clump? Or can you find a little bit of motion through the thoracic spinal column? Reverse your pathway. When we do bridge, we often tend to get really interested in a lot of pelvic tilt, and we often ignore the movement through the rib cage. So I'm trying to shift that awareness. Right? We have a general awareness of that initial lift, but when we get to the thoracic spine, we pay attention. We don't just shove the rib cage up like a block, but we try to get a sense for each of those vertebrae that are moving away from the floor and then back down onto the floor in that thoracic area. Let's do that 2 more times. Holding the block. Developing a better sense for that thoracic region, rising up, coming back down, and then let's do that 1 more time. Just deepening our relationship with our own body, improving our awareness of our own body, as we move up and down with thoracic spinal awareness in the bridge. As you come down, pause, remove the block. Yay, we have just enough time to do a strap stretch. So let's set the blocks off to the side. And if you'd like to have a pillow for this, you're absolutely welcome to have one. And so let's go ahead and grab our non-elastic strap and let's hook our right foot into the strap. And make sure that you've got yourself positioned on the floor so you have room to cross over, right? So let's hold that strap with our left hand. Right foot is in the strap. Let's hold the strap with our left hand, right arm out onto the floor, right? And then using the strap as a guide, let's begin to bring that right leg across the midline, slowly, slowly, slowly. Nice control, lengthening around the side of the hip that we massaged earlier in class with a good movement, right? Lengthening through the glutes and the low back, begin to slowly twist, coming around. Delaying as long as possible the lifting of the right shoulder. Right? If you're flexible enough, you might not have to lift your right shoulder off the floor, but if you're tight through your hip or your back, your right shoulder may come off the ground. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with you. But here's the kicker today. What's happening in your thoracic region? Right? Again, we get so keyed into that pelvic region. But what about that lovely rib cage and thoracic spine? What's happening in that part of the body when we rotate? Can you feel any flexibility in that part of your body in this twist? And as you breathe, can you feel movement in that part of your body? Expansion and relaxation in the thorax. Let's take 2 more breaths. And on the next exhale, slowly make your way back to the middle, leg to the top. Let's just go ahead and stick that left foot into the strap. Bring the right leg down onto the floor, holding the strap with the right hand. That left arm rests out to the side. And we're going to bring that left leg across the midline, right? First experiencing that opening across the side of the thigh and hip, around the region of the buttocks as the pelvis begins to slowly turn, the sacrum and lumbar spine turning. We feel the stretch in the butt and in the back. And then again, bringing some awareness into that thoracic region. What happens in a spinal twist to the thoracic spine? Well, I'll tell you what happens anatomically. It rotates, right? Whether or not that's happening in your body, right, is for you to discover. But the potential for movement and rotation exists in the thoracic region. As well as the potential for expansion and relaxation as we breathe. So I invite you to spend this last couple of moments in the twist, breathing into the thoracic region. Allowing your breath to help to reacquaint you with this part of your body. Let's take one more breath here. And then make our way back to the center, releasing that left foot from the strap. And then let's just take a moment to bring both knees to the chest and gently circle the sacrum and lumbar spine against the floor, cradling the knees. And reversing the circle. Gosh, am I neglecting the back of the thoracic spine as we do these circles? Do we feel any rocking or motion in that part of the body? And then let's release the feet. And we'll roll to our sides and bring ourselves up into a seated position. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording for our friends who need that later. If I can remember how to do that here. Give me a second. I've got to put my glasses. There we go.